Hello and welcome to From the Be-All End. This is the belated preview of today's game against Oxford United. Apologies for this 24-hour delay in it. We had a long list of stuff that just all seemed to happen. We did actually start recording the show, but then internets went out and hurricanes started floating around, and Chris Bowden's traffic from Preston was causing problems, and it just got to the stage where we were better just coming back and doing it calmly, which is what we're doing now. I'm joined by Justin Connolly, Chris Bowden and Paul Woodhouse. Before we get on to looking at today's game at Oxford, there's not been a huge amount going on at Turf Moor this week, but we had a new fashion range launched. Travis Matthew, golf wear partner of Burnley, have unveiled their Burnley range, and Woody's been taking a look at that. Woody, what do you make of it?
They're nice socks, aren't they? You know, we look like we've established some kind of weird Illuminati cult or whatever. You know, the bees in the hand and whatnot. What's the hoodie? 130. I think one of the T-shirts looks quite nice. It looks like Justin had designed it. So, yeah. Other than that, I don't think
in dollars, it's $169 for a hoodie with a bee on the back and that hand that's part of the old crest.
The Andy Farrell hand, appealing for offside, as they used to say.
It's a fair lot of money, isn't it? It's a fair lot of money, Justin. That $169 or 130 odd quid for a hoodie. Are you tempted for that?
No, I'm absolutely not tempted to part with it. 130 quid for a hoodie, 40 quid for a T-shirt, and 35 quid for a hat. A hat that has the Burnley badge on and says Travis Matthew underneath it. I mean, who's gonna want that? I mean, I don't know.
Is it anything to do with Damien Matthew? I've heard of Damien Matthew. I don't know. I won't buy Damien Matthews' hooded top. I love Damien Matthew, but I won't buy his hooded top.
I think it's, isn't it?
It's one. I'm assuming it's going to be like targeted to our American friends because it's a fairly decent sports brand, isn't it? Over this side of the pond.
Yeah. So the targeting
whether it transfers over, I have no idea.
American country club Burnley fans.
Yeah, but the branding includes Travis Matthew, doesn't it? That's what's weird about it. It's not just Burnley stuff that's made by them. It's got they've got a T-shirt with the old-fashioned BFC logo on it, and it says Travis Matthew, Burnley FC, forever and ever Turf Moor. I mean, what's Travis Matthew involved in that for? It's baffling.
I think it's what they call a modern partnership.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll see if it brings in any revenue for Burnley or Travis Matthew, or how many people we see wandering into the bridge wearing 130. The thing is, it's like their baseball caps, though, isn't it? You know, if you wear it, it's a bit of a statement, isn't it? It says, "I've got 130 quid for a hoodie," or if you wear the baseball cap, you've paid your 60 quid for the membership.
Yeah, It's not aimed at us, Simon. Let's be honest.
Yeah, they'll be on sale at Dick's. Trust me. They'll be $45 for Black Friday.
Dick's for those. Our British listeners is the sort of JD Sports of America.
Yes.
Yeah. I've been to one. There's one in Times Square in there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
I've been to that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to clarify, not a strip joint.
I've been to that one as well.
Right, but maybe time to move on, Simon. What do you think?
Yeah, let's move on. Before talking of
about Dicks. Yeah.
Well, I was going to bring up Vitinho's penalty in midweek in the Copa Libertadores. Chris, you pointed that one out. Describe it.
Well, say I got sent it on WhatsApp by Daz Bentley, and it's well, it's Copa Libertadores, isn't it? The penalty shootout.
Yeah, Sao Paulo
is,
against Botafogo, quarter-final, second leg, penalty shootout.
And it's like Justin said, it's like watching Chrissy Waddle in the Italian 90 semi-final, isn't it? It's still rising as we speak. Right?
He doesn't just miss, does he?
Well, luckily for
he's aiming
friend,
for something completely different somewhere.
Different altitude.
Luckily for our old friend, Botafogo still won 5-4 on penalties into the semis of the Copa Libertadores, the South American version of the Champions League. So Vitinho got some exciting fixtures to look forward to. I'm glad to see he's doing all right, though. I mean, he's one of the few, I must admit, who I would sort of half follow his career, like even if he wasn't skying penalties into home end. Watching Benfica's games to see how Round is going on or anything. I haven't even watched any Bayern. Has anyone watched any Bayern Munich to sort of see what companies look like, Chris?
No, I watched Champions League. I watched Liverpool Milan last week, and there was a lot of compliments heading his way, wasn't it? A record Champions League number of goals scored against one of the weakest sides ever to play Champions League football, other than Rangers.
I think we're going to find he's a managerial equivalent of a flat track bully, aren't we? Give him a good set of players in a half decent division, and he's going to do all right. Get him to assemble a squad for a more difficult division, and he'll have a shit house.
Well, I'm not paying any attention to it until they start losing.
Yeah, exactly.
But do we not get more money if they win the Champions League? We're not backing them to.
Don't care about that. No. We want the Schadenfreude, don't we?
Well,
yeah, we do.
And you know he's going to win the Champions League anyway, don't you? So
who's going to win it?
They play in all white, don't they? They win it every year.
They usually do that.
Tottenham.
Anyway, Oxford United. 3 out of 3 they've won at home. Not a bad start at all for them. Chris, give us your scouting report on Oxford.
Well, it's 4 out of 4 if you count the cup tie as well. They are the Burnley of the mid-90s, that they've won every game at home and lost every game away. It's you remember that start to the was it the 93-94 season when we won the playoffs, and we couldn't win away for love nor money, and we were absolutely. I think they won 17 home games that year, didn't they? But yeah, just look at they're quite similar in some aspects to Burnley. They're quite clinical. The openings that they have, they've largely taken them, and they've been decent in terms of like goals from distance. If anyone's seen the goal at Blackburn that put them in front before they were pegged back, I mean that was. I mean, imagine not winning goal of the month with that goal, only to be beaten by Vyman's efforts against Burnley. But they're good on the counter attack. They're decent. When they fall behind, they've not let their heads drop. But they are. They're not great. In terms of dominating possession, they give chances away, and. Yeah, like I said, they went in front at Blackburn and were pegged back. When they go in front, they're not in the habit of closing games out by the look of things. So I think hopefully it'll be sort of quite open and quite dissimilar to last week's game, where we're not up against two banks of four sort of thing, and it's like they'll come out against you. And another team that looked really well coached. If anyone watched them in the League One playoff final against trademark the best team in League One, Bolton Wanderers, they were fabulous. You look at like Josh McEachran, who everyone remembers he was going to be the next great thing at Chelsea. Dane Scarlett that's come through Tottenham Hotspur, and it's decent. It's decent, but it's the first trip to Kassam Stadium for the Burnley fans, and I think I don't know whether they're looking to move away from there, but it's never been completely finished, has it? I don't think you can still, I think Josh Brown will be putting a few of the cards at risk from behind the goal, won't he? But it's. I actually went to the first game there. Rochdale played there in 2001, I think it was. Ted McMinn was on the staff at Oxford there. I bumped into Ted behind the scenes. What a fabulous player he was for Burnley. So, that's the thing is we're in. I say we go anywhere. If we can go to Leeds and take the points there, we can go anywhere and beat anyone in this league.
I am looking forward to it because I quite like the counter-attacking version of this Scott Parker team. But setting it up, I mean, we looked at that midfield a little bit last week. He's got to pick presumably 3 or 4 for that game. We've had some of the players on the bench. Laurent was on the bench. Masengo on the bench. What do you think he'll go with the same midfield, would he, or do you think he'll be tempted to mix it up away from, or maybe Laurent coming in? Or
I mean, I've absolutely no idea. So there's your answer to that. Maybe bring in Fleming, do what we did against Leeds, and hopefully we can catch him a couple of times and then shut up shop, because we got plenty on the bench if we do kind of go in front to see the game out, haven't we? Second half. I mean, whether we do play with maybe Fleming and Foster up front, is that a bit of an extravagance away from home? I don't know. But I think the midfield options, Laurent hasn't disappointed as yet. I suppose it depends whether, Cullen is okay. Other than that, I genuinely don't know.
Would you be mixing things up a bit, Justin? I mean, we talked last week about maybe Anthony and Sarmiento. Would you be switching things around a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think if what Chris says is right, that they might be a bit more open than a team like we were against Leeds. If they're going to play a bit more like that, then we might bank a little bit on our quality to sort of go toe to toe with them a little bit rather than play on the break. But I think this game is a perfect example of why the Championship is such a fantastic league. It's a real weird sort of feeling that I've got where I really want us to go back into the Premier League, but I love Championship football because it's so unpredictable. I know so little about the opposition, and also the styles and the quality levels are so different across the whole spectrum of you just don't know what you're going to get. And that's what makes it so interesting. Last season, we were fooling ourselves a lot of the weeks, weren't we? We were sort of saying, "Oh yeah, we've got a bit of a chance. We might, if we do this, we might get." But every single game in the Premier League, you can sort of almost predict the score. Never mind the result. It's so obvious what's going to happen, and it all plays out in exactly the same way. And we spent the entirety of last season sort of betting and hoping on something being different from what we thought was going to happen, and it never really transpired, does it? But this, as Woody says, we've got no idea what's going to happen, have we? And that's what makes it so exciting and so interesting. But the weird thing is, we want to get out of this division so that we don't have that excitement and that unpredictability every week. I'm sort of almost hoping we're getting the playoffs and sort of miss out at Wembley or something like that, so we can so we can just sort of stay here and enjoy sort of this kind of like it's proper football, isn't it? It's proper like old school football. And
no idea what's going to happen. No
idea. No.
It's funny you mentioned that, Justin, because my old editor at Reuters, Mike Collett, even though he's been retired a few years now, he's like an avid follower of football at all levels. And he WhatsApped me during the week and he said, "Do you want to go up? Like, really? Which do you prefer? Do you were getting hammered every week, or like struggling and hoping you could get a point, and now you're winning a lot of games and you must be enjoying that. Do you actually want to go up?" And I said,
weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I think most people do want to go up, but there's also part of me thinks exactly like you, that it wouldn't be bad to just have a really good, exciting season, just miss out and have a go at it again next year. But just because it is enjoyable. And I spoke to a Sheffield United fan as well the week before last, who said, I want 3 years in Championship after that. After that last year for Sheffield United in Premier League, I don't want to go anywhere near it for at least 3 years. So I don't know. I mean, where do you stand on that, Chris?
Well, it's if stay in it for 3 years or so, and then you see the parachute payments sort of drift away, and there's no guarantees. Your best players get cherry picked, and absolutely no guarantee of ever getting back there ever again. You need to strike while the iron's hot now. And you that sort of first season down, and it's great to come down. Like I say, be in games that are competitive and win a damn sight more than you lose. But the whole prestige of being in the Premier League and being on Match of the Day and having all these games on TV and just being in the conversation every weekend, in the national newspapers, on Sky and everything, and let's have it right. I mean, we've been relegated out the Premier League before, but last season we weren't competitive at all. But that last season it felt like we weren't a Premier League team. But the preceding times before that we were. I mean, we're competitive and we've finished in the top half twice. And I believe we're capable of doing that again. Really do. There's no reason no reason at all why not. If Crystal Palace can establish themselves there, if Brighton can establish themselves there, Bournemouth can establish themselves, that we can't go and with a bit of backing from the board, and that's go and do it again. Why not?
No, I think that's absolutely right. We're scarred by last season, aren't we? We want to go back into our shells a little bit and enjoy our football a little bit. But I think you're right. I mean, we all definitely want to go up, not least because it's important for the town, isn't it? Not just the club, but having a Premier League football side in the town is important to a lot of people. So that's one of the things that really annoyed me about sort of companies' sort of blasé attitude to us getting relegated. Like, oh well, it just all it does is confirm where we're going to be playing next season. No, it matters to people. It matters to people in the town. It matters to businesses, shops, and all that sort of stuff. We do want to go, but the sort of the misery of last season, I don't want to revisit this, and I'm quite enjoying this season already.
Are you, Woody? Are you enjoying it enough to want another year of it?
It's one of those, isn't it? It's like, well, why are you playing in a championship if you aren't trying to make that next step up?
Yeah,
it's exactly. That level of naivety. It's understanding that, yes, going up and then still trying to be that side in the championship and play expansive football. Nobody gets away with it. Nobody has done for years, unless we'd have to spend maybe 2 to 3 times the amount that we did do last year just in order to maybe be competitive in the bottom half, and that's the thing that's slightly galling, apart from, like you say, Crystal Palace and Brighton, and they've spent a lot of money to get where they are, and as well as Bournemouth. It's without considerably more money, we cannot go into that division and not do another Dyche or a Pulis and just basically stink the place up a little bit just to make sure we finish outside the top 3, because it's a financial requirement, and there's not too much enjoyment in that. So it is a weird one. I think most fans of all clubs in similar situations, like you said, the Sheffield Uniteds to the Burnleys to anybody, it becomes this little teeter-tot, doesn't it? And it almost makes you want a Super League to get rid of the bigger sides, the top 4, so that we can almost have a Championship 1, Championship 2 type of thing. And then it becomes more competitive, and that could be more enjoyable. Definitely. You just want to be in a division.
Which is what we had for 70 years before the Premier League were formed, really, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. But so you have the debate about, remember speaking to Eddie Howe, and Eddie wanted to play a certain way that he felt would translate itself in the Premier League if Eddie got Burnley promoted. Playing an open, exciting brand of passing football. And it was going the other way at Burnley. We'd score 3 and ship 4 at the other end. And Charlie Austin scores hat-trick at home and we don't win the game and stuff like that. And you go 2-0 up at Crystal Palace and get walloped 4-2 and stuff like that. But it's by the same token, Sean Dyche looked at it and thought, if we go up and play like an abrasive, direct sort of style of play, they're more accustomed to that today. You look at the Premier League defenders now, and you look at Arsenal. Arsenal taking all the headlines all week for the dark arts and having the temerity to defend last week, and City started bringing in players like Otamendi and players like that to handle Ashley Barnes, and they cope with the physical, direct nature of it a lot easier. Up against the Van Dijk, Gabriel and Salibas and people like that. You have to adapt. He's probably like Scott Parker is a bit of a mishmash of both. Able to play, able to be a bit more pragmatic, and I'd say fingers crossed he hits on the right formula, and he not only gets us up, but he gets the way to keep us in there.
Absolutely. Just looking at this Oxford game, I mean, it's been a while since we've played them, isn't it? And it's actually, the last time we were there was at the Old Manor Ground, April 15th, 2000. And just looking at that team, were you at that game, Chris?
I was, yeah. It was
just looking at the team lineups, and it does bring back some memories. I'm just curious what it sparks in people. Burnley's lineup that day was Paul Crichton in goal, Dean West, Steve Davis, Ian Cox, Mitchell Thomas. Midfield was Paul Smith, Graham Branch, Paul Cook, Lenny John Rose, with Mickey Mellon operating just behind Andy Payton. And the bench, what a bench this was. Ian Wright, Paul Weller, Alan Lee, John Mullin, and Ronnie Jepson. Plenty of attacking.
Ronnie Jepson.
Do you bring on Ronnie Jepson or Ian Wright?
Ronnie Jepson makes the bench age 45. Superb.
It was a great memories of that, because obviously Paul Weller had his troubles, hadn't he, with he Crohn's, hasn't he, Paul?
His health problems, yeah.
Yeah, and he got the winner. I seem to remember right about it. Bit of a play on his name. Who was the 5 o'clock hero? It was that late in the day. After the jam track of the same name. Ian Wright getting the assist, and just one of those games where you just knew they were sort of grinding their way to promotion, and they had a bit of a stutter when Gillingham won 3-0 at Turf Moor, and I think they thought they were going to snatch runners-up spot behind Preston, but the last day worked out as it did, didn't it? The strange quirk of Mark McGregor, future Clarets, scoring an absolute wonder goal for the Wrexham against Gillingham, and Burnley coming from behind to win at Scunny. And Glenn Little's volley still gets better every time I see it on the big screen at Turf Moor. It's you underestimate just how good a goal that was at the time. It's just magnificent.
One name there that just got me thinking. I haven't looked it up. I could do the old Wikipedia, but we have our own football Wikipedia here in Chris Bowden. So Paul Smith was a player who people really raved about, didn't they, early in his career? Was it injuries? I can't remember what happened with Paul Smith, really. Yeah,
it was a super talent. Like everyone marvels about left-footed. Anyone who's got they always got a sweet left foot, haven't they? No one has a sweet right foot.
Yeah,
and he'd come through that youth system with John Mullin. That team that I think they got to the quarter-final of the FA Youth Cup, lost to Arsenal. Got to the final of the Lancashire FA Youth Cup and lost to Manchester United at Turf Moor with the sort of like the young, the team below the class of '92. So you'd Phil Neville and Terry Cook, Kirovsky, people like that. Phil Neville scored. Well, he went the length of the pitch to score that night, and United were just too good. But Paul, I thought he was a wonderful player, Paul Smith. He scored his first goal at Watford, I remember, under Adrian Heath, who gave these young lads, the brasses, Paul Weller, Paul Smith, their head as such. Scored a fabulous goal, one of the best finishers in the club at the time. And I interviewed him after. He had a stutter, Paul Smith, and if you look at. So had it been in this day and age, people would have been sort of like really praising him for, fantastic that you can do an interview and come out, and people would have maybe spoken about it a bit more. But at the time, you just sort of you spoke to him, and it was he's quite a shy guy as well. So it was he didn't do a great deal of press, but he was one of the players I thought he just such a gifted player. He played
player, wasn't he? Look,
yeah. He did well at when we won promotion. Did well at as it was then, First Division Championship level. But I think he hurt himself, didn't he? He had a bit of a bizarre injury. I think he fell down a manhole or something. He'd suffered a bad injury falling down a manhole, if memory serves me right. Someone might be able to double check that, but just never quite kicked on. God knows. No, it never quite sort of kicked on. But I was a huge fan of Paul Smith.
Yeah, after leaving Burnley, he actually played 112 games for Burnley, which I didn't. That surprises me slightly.
Over quite a long time, though. I would think.
Yeah, 94 to 2001, and then he went off to Hartlepool, 55 games there. Sheffield Wednesday, 27 games, and then it's non-league stuff then. But yeah, no, he's one that. Just looking at that lineup, anyone else spring to mind there? I mean, there's some players there who, like Paul Smith, I've sort of forgotten player in a way. People remember Graham Branch and Paul Cook and Lenny John Rose, obviously, but Mitchell Thomas at left back. Dean West, bit of a Connor Roberts sort of player, wasn't he, really?
I think he lived in Hapton at the time as well. He's Haptoner, but capable of scoring, an absolute thunder bastard, but just solid, reliable. One of Stan's lieutenants, didn't he? He knew exactly what the prescription was to get Burnley on an even keel and get them back heading the right way. And he went and got his leaders, his men, didn't he? And in and around these talents like your Wellers and Paul Smith, people like that. Big one for me was signing Ian Cox in. Obviously, everyone remembers Wrighty coming in, but to bring Ian Cox in from Bournemouth, that was, to me, was the we're getting promoted here. We signed an absolute class act here at this level and probably above. And what a footballer he was.
Yeah. Justin, anyone from that team provoke any memories?
Well, I mean, only Dean West. I think he's the one I remember from that. He was like a sort of super solid right back, wasn't he? Who just was, 100% reliable. Obviously, Ian Wright. I mean, that period, that was like that period when Stan was signing some sort of football legend every season, wasn't it? But I remember, I mean, Ian Wright, even the short time he was there was some fantastic sort of memories I've got. I remember, I've no idea, Chris will be able to tell me, I've no idea who it was against, but I remember him taking one over his shoulder and smacking it in the top corner and thinking,
Notts County, yeah.
I've never seen anybody do that at Turf Moor. And I just thought it's just amazing that he was getting these quality play, albeit in the sort of twilight of the careers. But yeah, there's some great names in that list, and all these a lot of these players are sort of Burnley legends, aren't they? You look at them and you think, oh, I remember incidents, and I remember how good they were. how many of the players that we've got now are going to end up in that category? I don't know. We've had this conversation before, haven't we? But it strikes me that we've got a long way to go before we establish these kind of legends. I mean, Ian Wright, I think, is a Claret legend, even though he only played for a short period.
Absolutely.
Because of what he did, because of the quality he brought to it.
I went to Brentford away that season.
Oh, yeah.
And Brentford's old ground, obviously. And I think he came off the bench, as he did quite a lot, didn't he?
Easter Monday, wasn't it, I think?
Yeah. And I remember the whole away end, and it was packed out that game, and the whole away end singing "You only came to see Righty" like after the goal.
Fair enough.
I think he got the winner, didn't he? If memory's right.
Seem to remember. So the big one was it. I mean, I think he made his debut against Wigan, hadn't he, in that nil apiece, and then we got turned over big style by Preston, and I think he'd gone sort of like 3 or 4 games and it wasn't quite working. Pates had he was suspended and he got sent off against Bristol Rovers at home. Andy Payton then sat out a suspension, and Wrighty played with Andy Cook. So you're Andy Payton back in the mix, and Ian Wright he was on the bench, and there was all sorts of stories that there were falling outs, and he was going to leave the club and this, that, and the other. I can remember ringing Stan up to asking him about it when they were on the way down to Gillingham, and Stan, typical Stan, was like, "I'll go and fucking put him on the phone to you," like, and he's like, you could hear him saying, "Yeah, I'm happy, I'm staying," like sort of thing, shouting on the bus, and he got the equaliser that night, earned us a massive point at Gillingham as it transpired. And he ran, from the goal mouth where he poached another typical Ian Wright goal, and ran to the dugouts and jumped in Stan's arms, and it was just it was just a real he just sort of you can stick your headlines where they don't where the sun don't shine sort of thing, and because they got on like house on fire, and he still, I think if you still ask Ian Wright, he absolutely loved that dressing room, and he loved that time of his career. He came back in 2007 for the 125th anniversary, and had the sort of privilege of speaking to him after the dinner that night, and he loved it, absolutely loved it here. And for him, he was like the sort of the figurehead. The star guest of Burnley's 125th anniversary dinner, which says a lot.
Yeah. I bumped into his son, works over here. He's a TV pundit now. Scored quite a lot of goals in MLS, Bradley Wright Phillips. And I was chatting to him in Columbus, Woody, that before the MLS Cup last year.
Yeah.
Burnley came up in conversation, and that's exactly what he said. Oh, my dad loved it there, So.
Yeah, I've heard him speak really highly of it, recently. Did he finish his career there, or did he retire after he was at Burnley? Because he'd been at Celtic, he'd been at Celtic, hadn't he? And he'd not had a great time of it, and ended
Forest
up at Burnley.
as well, was he at?
West Ham, Forest, Celtic.
Yeah, and he absolutely loved it. But it was weird when he was on the podcast with Gary Neville when JJ Watt was on. And he didn't sort of mention the fact that he played for Burnley. He just sort of said, "Oh, I love Burnley," but he didn't sort of discuss it with JJ Watt, which I thought was a bit strange. But
yeah, we were his last club. Yeah.
I think he's always said that it was a great way to end his career. That was like, enjoyed himself at Burnley, and from a downer at Celtic and Forest and all that to end on a high like that was really good.
Yeah, he was big pals with Mitchell Thomas, wasn't he? And obviously he worked. He loved working with Stan from his time at Palace, and big Mitchell Thomas was it. Remember the pair of them turning up for the promotion parade in 2000, and they looked the absolute business. And these leather jackets on, and these the new Levi jeans that were out at the time, and they rolled up in the brand new shape Mini as was then. And he just He's a sharp chap. Is Ian Wright? He looked the absolute.
It'll be fairly baggy stuff, wouldn't it, at that time?
Oh yeah.
Wouldn't it just?
Yeah, but I mean, you probably couldn't do that now, could you? I mean, Ian Wright, from what I recall, he wasn't really training much at all, was it? He was just playing the games at that stage. Wasn't that the deal he did with Stan? Don't be flogging me every day in training. I'll turn up and score a goal for you, or come off the bench or whatever. You just can't imagine anyone doing a deal like that now, could you? You know, getting a player, and it did used to happen with older players who stepped down the divisions. It was like, well, don't get silly. Like, I'll play, but yeah.
I mean, it happened to most of Mr. McGraw's career, didn't it? At the top level.
Yeah, Paul McGraw did. Yeah. True, he did that, didn't he? Yeah.
I'm not sure how often Gaza turned up for training. Let's just put it that way.
Well, that was kind of the opposite of the Ian Wright thing, wasn't it? Really, yeah. That never worked out. We should do an episode on Gaza at Burnley sometime because, yeah, that was.
He still thinks he played for Barnsley, doesn't he?
People tell him that he played for Burnley, but he doesn't remember much about it.
Yes.
Shall we finish off with some silly predictions about playing a team we've got no idea what they're going to be like, but we're going to predict some scores anyway? Let's just finish off with that. Go on, Woody. What we're going to do at Oxford today?
I think we might sneak 2-1.
2-1. Any details?
Yeah. No.
Chris?
Well, before Woody said that, I was going to go exactly the same, sort of like a repeat of our last trip down there. Yeah, well, I think we will concede, but I think we'll get the 3 points.
Justin?
Okay, so now I've got to go. I'm going to say, relying on what Chris's intel, they're going to be open, and we're going to play them off the park, and it's going to be 3-0 to the mighty Clarets.
3-0 to
You're in a good mood today, aren't you? Yeah.
I think it could be a ding.
This time last year, we were saying we were going to beat Chelsea, so it's yeah.
I don't recall that. Right, I'm going to go with they're an open side. We're not quite the finished article yet, but we've got too much for them. So it's going to be a ding-dong affair that we win 4-2. Possibly having been 2-1 down before a surging performance in the second half. Yeah. Let's see. It's coming up later today as you listen to this. Once again, we'll be back much sooner. We'll be back on Monday to look back at that game and lots of other things as well as normal service resumes. Thanks very much for joining us. All the best and up the Clarets.